Happy Tuesday. My name is Floyd Koenitz, president of an organization for LGBTQIA current and former Seventh-day Adventists called Seventh-day Adventist Kinship International. Tuesdays has been a traditional time now to do a video called Tuesdays with Ted. It's a time where I create a video trying to start a conversation, a discussion with the president of the administrative body, the General Conference of the SDA Church, Ted N.C. Wilson. So far, I haven't been successful in my attempt, but I'm enjoying doing these videos and sharing with everyone who will listen. So, as always, I invite you to put the video on pause for a moment, go grab yourself a drink of whatever your favorite beverage is, and come back and join me. I'm drinking water in case anyone is interested, but I don't have any sponsors for this and don't get paid or anything, but I did want, and I do like to just share some good things with you. And I wanted to share with you this right here. I was thinking this is one of my favorite protein drinks. I know a lot of you are health conscientious and try to do, work on your health. Something that we normally don't get if you're a vegetarian or a semi-vegetarian, you don't get enough protein. So it's always important to supplement your diet with some extra protein. And this is the one that I enjoy the most. It has no animal byproducts or unhealthy things. It's only what you need, OWYN. And this particular one has 32 grams of protein in a chocolate-flavored shake and 200 calories. And like I said, total fat is 6 grams and protein 32. So that's a lot of protein in one little drink, and it's really tasty. It tastes better than milkshake, actually. So for any of you who are either working out or just want to add protein to your diet for a healthier lifestyle, look in your grocery store for OWYN, only what you need. And it comes in several different flavors. There's a vanilla one that's not quite as many grams of protein, but this is one of my favorites. So just wanted to share that with you, a freebie share. So give it a try if you're into that. And I don't know if any of you missed me last week, but last week I didn't get around to making a Tuesdays with Ted. Anyway, by the way, hi Ted. I hope you're watching. I hope your spies are listening at least and reporting to you what I'm going to talk about. I always enjoy chatting with you. I would like a response, and that's the whole point of this video. So maybe one of these days you will. It's kind of boring to talk to yourself in a video and never get a response. And I know that that's the whole goal of the church, is to not talk with the queer LGBTQIA plus folks, because then you will validate us as we actually exist. And you would like to keep your head in the sand and pretend that we don't exist. So, I get it. It's also probably beneath your station for you, President Ted Wilson, to speak with a queer person. And if you want to be elitist like that, I don't get it, but I get it. So, I've covered a lot of different topics. I'm reading or I'm listening to videos about a book called Why the Bible Began, and it is by author, Professor Jacob L. Wright. He's a Jewish professor at a Christian university. He's obviously not Adventist, but he wrote a book about why the Bible was written. And I know that principle goes against most Adventist conservative thinking, but I find it very fascinating. And for me, it brings out the point that the Bible wasn't written as the Word of God giving us a list of do's and don'ts, and in order to be in God's favor, you have to do this. And if you do this, you're not in God's favor and you're in in danger of condemnation and eternal hellfire, etc., etc. That God I have gotten rid of a long time ago, because that is not the God that I know, that I walk with daily. My God is a God who created us and wants us to be there, to be in communion with us, to have a relationship with Him. And so God is not someone I fear, not someone I serve, not someone I necessarily worship, in the sense of I do whatever he, they, it, she, whatever wants me to do, out of fear, out of anything else. I do what I do because I love God, and yeah, God created me as a queer being, as a gay man, and I have learned to love and accept that fact, and life has been wonderful since then. So, you create statements, you do these 28 fundamental beliefs of things the Adventists have to believe in order to be a good Adventist or an Adventist in good standing. You create websites about how to have sex and how not to have sex, and all that stuff. And I don't think God gives a flip about any of that. He wants us to be good, upstanding people, someone who He can be proud of. Doesn't matter if I see a naked person in a magazine, what you might call porn, or God doesn't care if I enjoy myself with masturbation, etc., etc. All these things are old topics from a long time ago that are no longer relevant to God and not relevant to us anymore. So the God that I know is a God who wants us to be in communion with Him, in a relationship, to share, even though they can see us and know exactly what we do every second of the day, to just share with Him and say thank you for the little things that we appreciate. God's not some old man sitting on a throne somewhere with a white beard that hangs down to his knees, and who knows what his hair looks like. We have no idea what God actually looks like. Yes, we were created in their image, but whatever that image is, we're not exactly sure. And so for some of you, what I'm saying is heretical, and that's okay, because heretical doesn't actually mean what you think it means, just like abomination doesn't mean what you think it means. Go look those up. I'm not going to spend my time and energy telling you those things. We've talked, I think, in the past about Pastor Alicia Johnson's book, The Bible and LGBTQ Adventists, and an excellent book. I encourage you to order it from Amazon if you're wanting a book that comes and talks about the LGBT issue from a very Adventist point of view. And yes, Alicia was very meticulous in coming from a very conservative, fundamental Adventist affirming way in that book, and I greatly appreciate that. But for some of you, that book is way over the top of your head, and that's okay too. So a book that I may have mentioned before is a book called Unclobber, Rethinking Our Misuse of the Bible on Homosexuality by Colby Martin, also a pastor. He's a heterosexual pastor. Unfortunately, he's not Adventist, so that'll discount him for a lot of you. And again, that's okay. If you think that Adventists are the only ones who have an insight on anything, then go your merry way, because this video isn't for you. But if you're open to understanding and trying to think about those texts that are used in the Bible, I highly recommend this. And this is available on the Kinship website. So you go to www.sdakinship.org/unclobber, and that'll take you to a page where you can fill in your address, your name, your address, your information there, and we will send this book to you free of charge, no postage, no anything. We just ask you to read it. And once you've read it, send me an email and let me know what you think. Did it open some new doors for you? Just let me know. It's a great book. As you can see, it's fairly thin, and it's an easy read. You could read a chapter at a time. There are approximately 187 pages in here, and that's in 10 chapters. And let me just open it here. Colby does a wonderful job of making the chapters very succinct and readable. So he goes from his own story of being an evangelical pastor and not affirming to how he became affirming, and then he spends one of the chapters on one of the texts, and then he tells a little bit more about his story and his life, and then he does another text, and then a little more. So he breaks it up. It's not just heavy theology. It's also understanding and getting into his brain as to what he was thinking during this time. And the very first chapter, when the head and the heart can't get along, and I think that's the case for a lot of Adventists. Our head hears what you tell us, Ted, and the heart is the one who loves our LGBTQ children, and so there's a disparity there. Then rethinking our misuse of the Bible. And then he goes into Genesis 19, reframing the story of Sodom. What was that actually all about? Then he was told he was unfit to be a pastor because of his new way of thinking or his questioning these texts. And then he goes into Leviticus 18 and Leviticus 20, two of the texts that talk about man shall not lie with man, blah, 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 redefining the boundaries and what that really is talking about. Chapter 8, reconciling a fractured community. Romans 1. What is Romans 1? And that's a text where a lot of you stumble over and can't wrap. You can kind of understand many of the other texts, but Romans 1, you can't overlook that, can't get that your head wrapped around it. So reconciling a fractured community. And then chapter 10 is revisiting forgotten words. 1 Corinthians 6 and 1 Timothy 1, especially where they talk about Malakoi and arsenokoitai. So get the book. It's free. Order one for your pastor. Order one for your parents if you're a queer person watching this or a queer affirming person. Order it for one for the person sitting next to you in the pew Sabbath mornings in the church. It's just a wonderful resource. It's free to you. If you're going to disagree with me, with millions of queer Adventists, then you actually need to know what we are talking about. One of the first things I did after finally coming to terms and to grips with, yes, Floyd, you are a gay man. You are a gay Adventist. What does that actually mean? What does the Bible say? I went to the Bible, and at that time there was no one to talk to. There was Exodus. And I talked to the Exodus people and found out that they were a bunch of BSers and liars, pretending to have been healed from their homosexuality just to appease their parents and their friends, and knowing that God was still seeing them. But privately, they admitted that nothing had changed in their lives. And so there was Exodus. There was the Colin Cook thing, which I knew was a debacle because he was fondling and sexually abusing the counselees that he was seeing in the name of Adventism and healing and our wonderful Adventist tithe that was being sent to him to support his pedophilia and sexual addictions. So I didn't go to Colin Cook. I didn't go to Exodus. Instead, I went to a former Baptist pastor here in the Dallas area who had started a gay church, an affirming church with a Baptist flavor, and he was doing a study on those clobber texts that I just talked about in here. And he opened my eyes to what those texts meant. The Adventist Church had nothing like that and still doesn't have anything. We have something called Coming Together Ministries, formerly known as Coming Out Ministries. A bunch of older and now younger gay LGBTQ people who had terrible childhoods growing up. Their parents didn't approve of them. They didn't find a place in the church. They went out and they got drunk and they had sex and they did all this, and they just somehow thought that was part of being gay. Well, it's not. Straight people do that just as much in the church as gay people do. So, Ted, you just need to get your head screwed on right. So, Gay Pride is coming up, and I am very happy to have a month to talk about Gay Pride, not because I am prideful, but I am proud of me and of all of us who are actually still alive, who have survived the church's homophobic rhetoric regarding LGBTQ and being Adventist. So we have a lot to be thankful for, a lot to be proud of, and I invite you, if you don't have one of these buttons, to write in and ask for one of the kinship buttons or pins. They're just a magnetic pin that sticks on that won't ruin your clothes. Or ask me for one of the wristbands that say, "I stand with LGBTQ Adventists," and then has a kinship website on it. For Pride Month, let's get the word out. Let's show our support for our queer Christians, Adventist brothers and sisters. And one other thing, we need to talk more about this thing called non-binary, trans, gender fluid. I am not those. Those things don't describe or apply to my personal life, but that doesn't mean that I can't have compassion and understanding and try to understand better my siblings who are non-binary, who are gender fluid, who are trans. And so maybe the next video I'll talk more about that. And by the way, the word transgenderism, Ted, that's so old school. You might as well call people hermaphrodites, and that shows your ignorance just as much as transgenderism. So if you want to know more, either Ted Wilson or anyone who's watching, please contact me, Floyd Poenitz. You can contact me, info@sdakinship.org, or you can find me personally on social media at Kinship Prez, KINSHIPPREZ, on X, on Instagram, or follow the regular Kinship account at SDA Kinship. So I hope you have a great week. I've talked a lot without taking a sip. So remember, Seventh-day Adventist Kinship International cares about you and affirms you exactly as you are. Well, a lot of people out there are questioning, so that Q doesn't have to just be for queer, it can be for questioning as well. Am I gay? Am I straight? Am I cisgender? Am I trans? Am I fluid? What does all this mean? And it means that God loves you unconditionally, just exactly as you are, and that SDA Kinship is a safe spot, safe place for you, safe home for you. And you might go to church Sabbath mornings in a brick and mortar Adventist church, and you probably will hear something negative about who you are as a person or who you love. Just remember, let that roll off you like a duck, like water on a duck, or in one ear and out the other. Remember that God loves you unconditionally, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday for another Tuesdays with Ted. And remember to tell God thank you for who you are, and show your love, give someone a hug. Take care. Bye-bye. Is there anybody
anybody.